My name is Elena Marlowe, and I'm 52 years old. If you're watching this, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me continue sharing these unbelievable life stories. And tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from, because this story begins in one place and ends somewhere completely unexpected. For 25 years, I was married to a man named Adrian Marlowe. He was kind, gentle, thoughtful, the type of man who never raised his voice at me, who always kissed me goodnight, and who never asked for much in return. Except for one thing. One request, one rule that he made me promise never to break. Never go to the farm, Elena. Promise me. The way he said it still echoes in my mind. His normally calm, measured voice carried a strange intensity that shook me to my core. For years, I honored that promise without question. Adrian rarely spoke of his childhood in Canada. He'd grown up on a farm somewhere in the Alberta countryside but left as a teenager, never to return. Whenever I asked why, his face would change, his soft features hardening into something I could barely recognize. And then, he would shut down completely. So I let it go. I told myself the past was the past. I had my husband, my marriage, my daughter Sophie. What more could I ask for? But life has a way of keeping secrets until it's too late. Because 3 months ago, Adrian died suddenly. A heart attack. One moment we were planning our next vacation, and the next. I was a widow. At 52. With a bitter, grieving daughter and a hollow space inside me where certainty used to live. 2 weeks later, I found myself sitting in a wood-paneled office, staring across a heavy oak desk at Mr. Harrington, Adrian's attorney. He had thinning hair, round glasses, and a way of speaking that made everything sound like it had already been decided. "Mrs. Marlowe," he said, sliding a folder toward me, "there's one more item we need to discuss." I blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" He reached into a drawer and placed a small brass key on the desk. It was old, heavy, and attached to a maple leaf keychain. Alongside it, a sealed envelope with my name written in Adrian's precise handwriting. I froze. My heart began to pound. "What is this?" Mr. Harrington adjusted his glasses. "Your husband purchased a property in Alberta, Canada, about 3 years ago. He gave strict instructions that you were not to be informed until after his death. The deed has now been transferred to your name. All taxes are prepaid for 5 years. My stomach dropped. A property? In Canada? Adrian never said a word. It's called Willowmere Farm, he continued calmly. Apparently, it was his childhood home. Though the records show it passed through several owners before he repurchased it. According to him, you were never to go there during his lifetime. I touched the envelope, fingers trembling. Adrian's handwriting stared back at me, sharp and deliberate. "Elena." Inside, I found his letter. "My dearest Elena. If you're reading this, it means I am gone, and I'm sorry. There are truths I could never bring myself to share while alive. The farm is yours now. I know I made you promise never to go there, but I'm releasing you from that vow. In fact, I ask you to visit once before you decide what to do with it. On the desk inside the farmhouse, you'll find a laptop. The password is the date we first met, followed by your maiden name. Everything will be explained there. Trust me, love. Always, Adrian." I pressed the letter against my chest, tears streaming down my face. Even in death, Adrian was full of secrets. But before I could speak, Mr. Harrington added something that made my blood run cold. "There is one complication, Mrs. Marlowe. Adrian's brothers have filed objections to the will. They claim he was not of sound mind when he repurchased the property. And, given the circumstances, the courts may allow them certain rights to contest ownership." I stared at him, stunned. That's absurd. Adrian was one of the most rational men I've ever known. The lawyer sighed. "Yes, but the timing is complicated. Significant oil deposits were discovered in the region about 18 months ago. Willowmere Farm, once worthless, is now considered extremely valuable. Energy companies have already made inquiries. Oil. Money. Land. And Adrian had told me none of it. For 25 years, we'd lived comfortably on his engineering salary and my job as a high school English teacher. Never wealthy, never extravagant. So how had he afforded to buy a farm outright? Why hide it? There were too many questions and only one answer that made sense. I needed to see Willowmere Farm with my own eyes. I'm going to Canada, I whispered. And 2 days later, I was there. After a flight, a rental car, and a long drive through the autumn-colored Alberta countryside, I finally arrived at gates taller and heavier than I expected. Wrought iron, with the words Willowmere Farm arched above. The key turned smoothly in the lock. And as the gates creaked open, I saw it, a vast estate that took my breath away. Rolling golden hills, towering maple trees, barns and outbuildings, and a white farmhouse with wide porches and bright windows. This was no broken-down relic from the past. This was a dream, restored and loved. I drove slowly up the gravel drive, heart thundering. Every nerve in my body screamed that something was waiting for me here. The farmhouse loomed closer. Fresh paint. Shining windows. A place reborn. But when I unlocked the front door and stepped inside, my knees nearly gave out. Because what I saw inside wasn't just a house. It was a museum of my passion. Everywhere, sculptures, paintings, photographs, all of them dedicated to horses. My lifelong love, my one indulgence. The animals Adrian had always supported but never truly understood, now surrounded me in a gallery of beauty. And on a desk by the window sat a silver laptop. A single red rose lay across its lid. But before I could touch it, the crunch of tires on gravel made me freeze. Through the window, I saw a black SUV pull up. 3 men stepped out. Tall. Dark-haired. Faces eerily similar to Adrian's. His brothers. And by the looks on their faces, they hadn't come to welcome me. I stood frozen inside the farmhouse, staring through the front window as the black SUV idled in the gravel drive. 3 men stepped out, and my heart nearly stopped. Adrian's brothers. They carried the same sharp jawline, the same dark eyes, the same presence as my husband, but colder. Harder. Like shadows of the man I'd loved for decades. The oldest, with silver threaded through his hair, scanned the house with ownership in his stance. The middle one adjusted his suit jacket like a lawyer about to argue a case. The youngest hung back, his eyes darting nervously, but his jaw tight with determination. They walked up the porch with the kind of confidence that said, "This is ours. You don't belong here." The knock came hard against the wooden door. Bang. 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 Mrs. Marlowe, the older one called, his voice carrying a distinct Canadian accent softened only by years of entitlement. "We know you're inside. We should talk." I stepped back, my breath shallow, heart hammering. Adrian had always warned me, vague but firm, about his family. Now I understood why. The knock came again, sharper this time. "I'm Robert Marlowe," the oldest announced. "These are my brothers, Stephen and David. We're here about the farm." Of course they were. Not about Adrian. Not about meeting the woman who had stood by his side for 25 years. They were here for this land. I pressed my back against the wall, choosing silence. My eyes drifted to the silver laptop on the desk. Adrian's rose still lay across it like a delicate warning. My gut told me the answers weren't outside with those men. They were in this room, locked behind that password. Ignoring the growing thunder of fists on the door, I sat at the desk, lifted the lid, and typed the password. 07211996 Marlowe, the date we met, followed by my maiden name. The screen blinked to life. A folder appeared. Simple. Labeled, "For Elena." With trembling hands, I clicked. Hundreds of video files appeared, each stamped with a date. My breath caught when I realized what they meant. Starting from the week after his funeral, stretching forward an entire year. A year of messages. A year of Adrian speaking to me from beyond the grave. I clicked the first one. Adrian's face filled the screen, not the weary, fading version from his last months, but vibrant, smiling, alive. "Hello, Elena," he said softly. That crooked grin I'd loved for decades tugged at his mouth. "If you're watching this, then I'm gone, and you've finally broken the promise I made you swear to keep. I told you never to come to this farm. And yet, here you are." He chuckled. "I should have known curiosity would win. Especially once Harrington told you everything." Tears welled in my eyes. His voice, his face, so present, and yet gone. "I've left you a video for every day of your first year without me," he continued. "1 year of me keeping you company, explaining everything I never told you. Starting with why I bought back the farm I swore I'd never return to." A fist slammed against the door, jolting me back to reality. The brothers' voices grew louder, angrier. But Adrian's words anchored me. 3 years ago, he said, I was diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. A genetic heart condition. The doctors gave me 2 to 5 years. I chose not to tell you, Elena. Not to tell Sophie. I didn't want pity. I didn't want to live in the shadow of death. I wanted to live fully with you. My stomach twisted. A mix of grief, betrayal, and understanding. He'd kept the truth from me. He'd stolen the chance for us to face it together. "I know you're angry," Adrian said, eyes soft. "But I need you to understand, everything I did was out of love." Outside, the men stopped pounding. Through the window, I saw them retreat to their SUV, pulling papers from a briefcase. Their posture screamed confidence, the kind that came from thinking they'd already won. Adrian's voice hardened. "My brothers don't know this, but before our father died, I bought the farm directly from him. He was broke, desperate for cash, and I gave it to him. Legally. Secretly. My brothers assumed they'd inherit it someday. They won't accept that it's yours. They'll fight." On screen, Adrian leaned closer, his expression fierce. "They'll try everything. Lies. Lawyers. Manipulation. Don't trust them, Elena. Not for a second." A chill swept through me. As if he'd known this moment would come. "In the bottom drawer of that desk," he continued, "is a blue folder. Every legal document proving this land is yours. Signed. Notarized. Untouchable." I yanked the drawer open. There it was, a thick blue folder, heavy with papers. My hand shook as I pulled it free. "My brothers will circle like vultures now that oil has been found on nearby land," Adrian warned. "They don't care about the farm. They care about profit. But this place was rebuilt for you. For the life I wish I could have given you. Whether you keep it or sell it, the choice is yours. But don't let them steal it." A car engine roared outside. Another vehicle pulled up the drive. A police cruiser. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I froze as the officer stepped out, flanked by the 3 brothers who now wore smug expressions, documents clutched in their hands. Another knock. This time, measured. "Official, Mrs. Marlowe," a firm voice called, "RCMP. Please open the door." I clutched the blue folder to my chest, Adrian's frozen face still glowing from the laptop screen. And just as I reached for the handle, my phone rang. It was Sophie. I answered with a whisper. "Sophie, now isn't a good time." "Mom," she interrupted sharply, "why didn't you tell me about Dad's farm? Or the oil? His brothers just called me. They offered me a settlement if I support them in court. What the hell is going on?" My blood ran cold. They weren't just coming after me. They were after my daughter too. "Sophie, listen to me," I said firmly, surprising even myself with the steel in my voice. "Do not sign anything. Do not agree to anything. These men are not on our side. They are not family. They're enemies." Her silence was heavy. Then, fine. But call me back. I need answers. I hung up, my pulse thundering, and turned to face the door where an officer now waited, flanked by Adrian's brothers. Mrs. Marlowe, the officer repeated. We have a court order. I inhaled sharply, lifted the blue folder, and prepared to fight for the last gift my husband had left me. Because I finally understood. This wasn't about oil. Or land. Or inheritance. It was about whether I had the strength to protect Adrian's legacy, or let it slip away. The house was silent except for the ticking of a grandfather clock in the hallway. I sat alone at the old wooden desk, the laptop glowing in front of me. My hands hovered above the keyboard, trembling slightly. The password. Adrian's letter had told me, the date we first met, followed by my maiden name. I typed it in, slowly, holding my breath. For a second, nothing happened. Then, the screen flickered and came alive. The desktop was bare except for a single folder. Its name made my stomach twist. Truth. I clicked. Inside were dozens of video files, documents, and photographs. Each one carefully labeled with dates, stretching back more than 30 years. I opened the first video. Adrian appeared on the screen, younger, maybe in his late 20s. He was sitting in this very room, his hair darker, his face leaner, but the same calm voice I knew so well filled the speakers. If anyone ever watches this, it means I couldn't keep the secret anymore, he began. His tone was heavy, weighted with fear. The farm isn't just a farm. What happened here, what my brothers and I went through, it should never have been buried. He paused, rubbing his face with both hands. Our father was not who people thought he was. Behind the barns, beneath the soil, there's more than farmland. There's something dangerous. Something people would kill for. I froze. My pulse raced in my ears. The video cut abruptly, as if he'd stopped recording mid-sentence. I opened another file, labeled 1999. It was a scanned police report. My eyes darted across the page. Missing person. Female. Last seen near Willowmere Farm. The name meant nothing to me, but the location made my blood run cold. Another file, photographs this time. Old, grainy shots of the barns at night. Men carrying equipment. Strange metallic containers being hauled underground. My throat went dry. I whispered into the empty room, Adrian, what were you involved in? Before I could open the next file, the floorboards creaked. I spun around. Sophie was standing in the doorway. My daughter's face was pale, her hair tied back hastily, her eyes blazing with the same mixture of grief and stubbornness that had been between us since Adrian's death. Mom, what are you doing? She demanded. I closed the laptop slightly, protective. Sophie, you shouldn't be here. She stepped into the room, her voice sharp. Shouldn't be here? You drag us across the country to some random farm Dad never told us about, and now you're sneaking around on his computer? Tell me what's going on. Her anger sliced through me. I wanted to comfort her, to shield her, but how could I when I didn't even understand what I was uncovering? Before I could answer, headlights swept across the windows. Another vehicle pulling into the drive. I snapped the laptop shut, heart racing. Upstairs, I hissed. Now. Sophie glared at me but obeyed, disappearing into the shadows. I hurried to the window. A black truck rolled, to a stop. Not Adrian's brothers this time. Two unfamiliar men stepped out, broad-shouldered, wearing dark coats despite the mild evening. Their movements were deliberate, calculated. They weren't here by accident. I grabbed the laptop, clutching it to my chest, and killed the lights. The farmhouse sank into darkness. My breath caught in my throat as footsteps crunched on the gravel outside, closer, closer. A heavy knock thundered against the door. Mrs. Marlowe? A deep voice called out. Calm, almost polite. We just want to talk. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. The knock came again, harder this time. We know what you have. Don't make this difficult. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would give me away. Sophie's eyes appeared at the top of the stairs, wide with terror. I motioned for her to stay silent. The voices outside murmured to each other. Then, slowly, their footsteps retreated. The truck door slammed. The engine roared, fading into the night. But I knew it wasn't over. Whoever they were, they'd be back. I sank into the chair, clutching the laptop. Adrian's voice echoed in my head from that first video. There's something people would kill for. Whatever secrets Willowmere Farm held, I wasn't the only one searching for them. And now, I wasn't sure if I was uncovering the truth, or walking straight into the same danger that had haunted my husband all his life. Sleep didn't come that night. Every creak of the old farmhouse made me jump. I sat at the desk until the screen blurred, clicking through files while Sophie slept upstairs. The further I dug, the more questions I had. Blueprints of the property. Receipts for industrial equipment Adrian had quietly purchased years ago. And an old diary entry, his handwriting jagged and frantic. They'll never stop looking. If I don't keep it buried, none of us are safe. Buried. The word gnawed at me. At dawn, Sophie appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. Her face was pale, sleepless. Are you ever going to tell me what's happening? She asked softly. I sighed, closing the laptop. I'm trying to piece it together myself. Mom, Dad wasn't some criminal. He was boring. He wore the same sweaters for 10 years. He paid the bills on time. Why are you acting like he was part of whatever this is? Her voice cracked. Anger, grief, confusion tangled together. I reached for her hand. I don't think he was a criminal. But he was hiding something. Something he thought would hurt us if we knew. Before she could answer, gravel crunched outside again. I froze. But this time, when I peeked through the curtains, I saw only one vehicle, the black SUV. Adrian's brothers. I opened the door before they could knock. The eldest, Marcus, spoke first. His eyes were dark, his jaw tight. We need to talk. Inside. Behind him, Daniel and Caleb stood like shadows, each carrying the same Marlowe features, twisted by suspicion. I hesitated, then stepped aside. Sophie appeared at the top of the stairs, glaring. Marcus wasted no time. Adrian left the farm to you. But you don't understand what you've walked into. Then explain it, I snapped. He leaned against the kitchen counter, arms folded. This land isn't safe. Our father, he made deals. Dangerous ones. There's a reason Adrian ran away as a teenager. He wanted out. He thought he could escape it. But he never did. He just hid it from you. Daniel spoke next, his voice sharper. The people who came last night? They're not going to stop. They want what's buried here. And if you stay, you'll put yourself, and her, he nodded towards Sophie, in danger. I felt Sophie's eyes burn into me. Caleb, the youngest, shifted uneasily. His voice was quieter. Elena, we're not your enemies. But if you stay here, you'll make us your enemies by accident. Sell us the property. Walk away before it destroys you too. Their words chilled me. But something inside rebelled. Adrian had trusted me with this farm. Trusted me with the truth. To simply walk away felt like betrayal. I'm not selling, I said firmly. Marcus's eyes darkened. Then you'd better be prepared for what comes next. The brothers stormed out, leaving silence in their wake. Sophie descended the stairs slowly, her voice shaking. Mom, maybe they're right. Maybe we should just go home. I turned to her, heart torn. And live the rest of our lives wondering what your father was hiding? No. We need answers. Her eyes filled with tears. Answers won't bring him back. That broke something in me. I pulled her into my arms, holding her tightly as she sobbed. But my mind was already turning. Buried. Later that afternoon, after Sophie fell asleep again, I walked out to the barns. The air was crisp, carrying the smell of hay and old wood. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight slicing through the broken slats. I ran my hand along the floorboards. Something about the ground felt hollow. In the far corner, beneath a stack of rotting hay bales, I found a trapdoor. Heavy, iron-bound, with a lock that looked as old as the farm itself. I pressed my ear against it. Silence. The brass key from Adrian's lawyer jingled in my pocket. My hand shook as I slid it into the lock. Click. The door groaned open. A staircase descended into darkness. I hesitated, the smell of damp earth rising up to meet me. Then, clutching a flashlight, I stepped down. The air was cold, the walls rough stone. My beam caught the edges of old machinery, rusted barrels, crates stamped with faded insignias I didn't recognize. And then I saw it, an entire underground chamber stretching beneath the barn. Tables, files, strange metallic containers. On one wall, dozens of photographs were pinned. Some were of the farm, some of people I didn't know, and one. My breath caught. One was of me. Taken years ago, at a cafe I used to visit after work. My knees went weak. This wasn't just Adrian's secret. This was our lives being watched. Behind me, a floorboard creaked. I spun, flashlight beam slicing through the dark. And in the shadows of the stairwell, someone was standing there. Watching me. The flashlight beam trembled in my hand. Who's there? My voice cracked, bouncing against the stone walls. The figure stepped forward, slowly, as if he wanted me to see him. A man, maybe late 40s. Tall, lean, with sharp features and eyes that glinted unnaturally in the light. His clothes were plain, but there was something military about the way he held himself, alert, balanced, every move controlled. Put the light down, he said evenly. His voice was calm, too calm, as though he'd rehearsed this moment. I gripped the flashlight tighter. Tell me who you are. He ignored the demand and glanced around the chamber, as though confirming what was still here. His expression tightened. So Adrian never told you. My blood ran cold. You knew my husband? A bitter smile flickered across his face. Knew him? I worked with him. We all did. Until he decided he wanted out. He walked slowly toward the wall of photographs, his fingers brushing across the pinned images. When he touched the picture of me, I flinched. Why is that here? I demanded. His eyes met mine. Because Adrian couldn't let go. He thought leaving the project would keep you safe. He was wrong. My chest tightened. What project? The man tilted his head, studying me. If he didn't tell you, maybe that's for a reason. I stepped closer, anger drowning out my fear. My husband is dead. And now strangers are coming to my door in the middle of the night. His brothers are threatening me. Don't you dare stand there and act like I don't deserve to know the truth. Something in my tone must have reached him. He exhaled slowly, the steel in his posture softening just slightly. Your husband discovered something beneath this land nearly 30 years ago. Something our government, and others, would do anything to possess. He tried to protect it, to bury it, but you can't bury something like this forever. I shook my head, confused. What are you talking about? Oil? Minerals? His lips pressed into a hard line. Not oil. Not minerals. Energy. The word hung in the air like a curse. Pure energy, he continued. A natural anomaly. Power strong enough to fuel cities, or destroy them, depending on who controls it. Your father-in-law exploited it. He built this chamber, brought in equipment, tried to harness it. Adrian wanted no part of it. He left, but, his eyes darkened. No one really leaves. My stomach twisted. And now? Now, the man said grimly, others know it's here. Corporations. Governments. People with money and no conscience. You saw them last night. They won't stop until they get it. I stared at him, my world tilting. My husband, my quiet, gentle Adrian, had carried this weight all his life? I whispered, why show yourself to me? Because Adrian trusted you. He left you this place for a reason. Maybe he believed you'd do what he couldn't. The words sliced through me. I glanced at the laptop under my arm. What am I supposed to do? I asked, my voice barely audible. Before he could answer, the faint sound of gravel crunching echoed from above. Tires. Doors slamming. Voices. The man's head snapped toward the stairwell. His voice dropped to a sharp whisper. They've found you. My heart lurched. Who? But he was already moving, fast and silent, disappearing into a side corridor I hadn't noticed before. I hid an exit. And then I was alone again. Shouts echoed from outside the barn. Boots pounded on the wooden floor above. I clutched the laptop and the flashlight, retreating deeper into the chamber. Dust rained down as someone wrenched open the trapdoor. A harsh beam of light swept the room. Down here, a voice barked. I ducked behind a stack of crates, heart hammering, breath shallow. Heavy footsteps thundered down the stairs. At least 2 men, maybe 3. I pressed my back against the cold stone, trying not to shake. The stranger's words looped in my mind, pure energy, people with no conscience, Adrian trusted you. But all I could think in that moment was simple, raw, paralyzing fear. If they found me, I might never leave this place alive.